Good morning, family and friends, and thank you for your presence here today. For those of you who don't know me, I'm John's son, Don, and I'm recording this in beautiful Solvang, the home of my granddaughter, Lindsay, and her wonderful family. This is a town my dad loved to visit whenever he was here in California. On behalf of our entire family, I thank you for joining us as we celebrate the life of my dad, John R. MacLeod. Before I begin, I would like to thank you and acknowledge just how important you have been in my dad's life. Be you family, friends, his brothers in the Masonic Lodge, or his fellow worshipers here at St. Michael's and All Angels, he truly appreciated the friendship, love, and support you have given him through the years. I'd also like to thank both Reverend Decay and Gary Rose for making it possible for me to be part of the service today. It is greatly appreciated. And finally, I would like to offer a giant thank you to Dave and Cheryl for everything you did for Dad in his final years. You have been unfailingly helpful and supportive. The love, warmth, and companionship you gave him meant the world to him, and it means the world to the rest of the family, who, as you know, are spread far and wide. We truly cannot thank you enough. Today, I'd like to share just a few quick memories that I hope might help capture what a kind, loving, and incredibly fun man Dad was. Now, as my brothers can attest, especially if we were in trouble, our dad always liked to remind us that he was what he would call an angelic child while he was growing up in the little town of Preston. He liked to remind us that he was a sweet, considerate, obedient child who never gave his parents any cause for concern. He was a child, according to him anyways, who probably could have been considered a candidate for sainthood. Well, I will let a higher power be the judge of that, but I can tell you that some of the boyhood stories shared by his lifelong friend, Joe Johnson, a man better known to us in our family as our beloved Uncle Joe, kind of called that assertion into question. Just a little. Actually, from what Uncle Joe told me, there were many words you could use to describe my dad as a boy, but angelic and saintly might not have been at the top of anyone's list. Whether my dad was truly a paragon of virtue or not, he did grow up to be a young man who very wisely married my mother, Margaret Rose Pollock, a girl who grew up only a few blocks away, and mostly remembered him as being this annoying kid who was always late for school and always calling out, "Hey Pollock, what time is it?" While that might not have been the smoothest line one could use to strike up a conversation with a young lady, it somehow did the trick. And so they eventually went on to be married, have 4 children, and move to London to build their lives. My dad was a man who enjoyed his work and was very successful at it. He worked long and hard and went out of his way to take care of his clients. If ever there was a man who went that extra mile, it was John R. MacLeod. My dad was also a man who knew what was truly important. He was a man who loved his family and truly savored spending time with them as much as he could. I know this won't come as a shock to anyone who knew him well, but he was also a man, at the end of the day, who was truly a kid at heart. He loved playing with his kids. Some of my happiest memories from childhood took place up at the Pinery, a place where he and my mom would often take the 4 of us for a day at the beach. My dad loved splashing in the waves and tossing us into the water while we were all just squealing with laughter. And no one enjoyed this more than he did. Those were great days, with an afternoon of fun in the water, followed by a barbecue and the traditional stop to pick up ice cream drumsticks on the drive home. A day of simple pleasures that truly meant the world to us. Yes, my dad was a kid at heart. That was never more obvious than on Christmas morning, or to be more precise, early Christmas morning, as in 5 a.m. Christmas morning. Every Christmas morning, he'd wake up too excited to wait any longer. And so we'd suddenly hear a big, booming voice calling out from the bottom of the stairs, shouting out for one of us to quit making so much noise because people were trying to sleep. We all had our turns being the alleged noisemaker, and we loved it when it was our turn. And just in case we didn't respond quickly enough, he would continue shouting for us to be quiet until the 4 of us all came bounding down the stairs. Now, to be clear, to my dad, Christmas was not about receiving presents. It was about giving them. Dad was a man who loved making Christmas as special as possible for all of us. To be sure, we all gave him presents, and to be sure, they were never anything particularly valuable, but still, he loved them all the same. I remember one Christmas, for example, Dave and I bought Dad a pair of little plastic bears with strange glowing yellow eyes. Bears that we thought were absolutely awesome. Little bears that we paid for with our own money. They probably weren't the most elegant, stylish, or tasteful gift our dad ever received, but he loved them, and he kept them proudly on his desk for, well, ever. They were still right there on his desk, in fact, on the day he passed away. Though Dad's life had just as much loss, grief, and hardship as anyone else's, he never lost his optimism and faith, and never lost his playful, buoyant, fun-loving side. That, I can promise you, was on full display whenever he had the pleasure of spending time with his grandchildren. He loved all of his grandchildren, and he truly lit up when talking about them. I can assure you, the feeling was mutual. There was deep, instantaneous, unbreakable bonds of love between my parents and our daughter, Lindsay and Sarah, both of whom have countless happy memories with their grandma and grandpa. Later, after my mother passed away, my dad would come visit us in California almost every year. He really enjoyed those trips, as did we, and he couldn't wait to spend time with the girls, head to the beach, and take them out for special lunches and dinners. Truth be told, he especially loved it when Sarah was older and working full-time as an RN. That way she could pick up the tab for their annual one-on-one feast at the Olive Garden. During his visits to California, Dad really enjoyed his trips to Disneyland with his granddaughters. And as our older daughter Lindsay reminded me, Grandpa was down for all the big rides when we took him to Disneyland for the very first time at the tender young age of 77. If they were going on a ride, he was going on it too. If they were up for a 12-hour marathon in the park, he was too, and he loved every minute of it. While there are so many wonderful memories to choose from, a special memory in our family is of a day when Sarah, in grade 1 at the time, brought her grandpa to school for show and tell, meaning he was what she brought in for show and tell. Honored to be invited for such an important occasion, Dad put on a suit and tie and prepared a little talk about Canada to share with her classmates. Sarah was worried he might be scared, so she held his hand as he went up to the front of the class and gave his talk. I was there that day, and it was so sweet to watch the two of them standing there, hand in hand. And my dear fellow Canadians, I think you'll get a kick out of this. When it came time for questions, every question these little California first graders asked was about snow. Is snow really cold? Why is snow white? Can you eat snow? Have you ever made a snowman? Sarah's teacher and I were quietly chuckling the entire time as Dad patiently answered all of their questions and proved himself to be one of the world's foremost authorities on all things snow. Through the years, Dad happily attended soccer games, birthday parties, the graduation ceremonies when both girls graduated from high school and university, and Lindsay's wedding to our wonderful son-in-law, Ed, a man, Lindsay also reminded me, that Grandpa took an instant shine to. Indeed, not only is Ed a great guy, but he also ate meat. And for those of you who don't know, the California branch of the family are all vegetarians. So for Dad, having another meat eater at the table was very exciting. And as an added bonus, Ed also has a beard. So as far as Dad was concerned, the man could do no wrong. He's also the man who's operating the camera right now, and so thank you, Ed. I really appreciate you doing this for me. Another one of our favorite memories centers around Lindsay's graduation from university. Dad wouldn't have missed it for anything in the world. When he arrived in California, however, he was surprised to learn that it's customary at Cal Poly to start graduation day with drinks at 6 a.m. at one of the local breweries. Now, my dad might have been surprised. He might have even been somewhat taken aback. But hey, far be it from him to break with tradition. And so, at 6 o'clock that morning, he was right there with us, thoroughly enjoying a beer and singing a Bon Jovi song at the top of his lungs, with a few hundred others. Now, did he know the words to the song? Not particularly. Did it matter? Not at all. He belted it out with gusto and enthusiasm regardless. And as a little aside, I can tell you he had an equally great time at Lindsay's wedding, though she never let him forget that he looked over at the family table as she and I were enjoying the traditional father-daughter dance, only to see that Grandpa was having himself a nice little nap. Or as he liked to put it, he was resting his eyes. These happy memories, and many more like them, are something we'll cherish for the rest of our lives. I hope they have captured at least some of the love, compassion, and sense of fun and adventure that truly defined my dad. And as I close this though, I admit that they are only part of the story. Like anyone who lived such a long, rich life, he said goodbye to many people he loved through the years, just like we today are saying goodbye to him. So with that in mind, I would like to share one final story that I think speaks volumes about my dad. A story that dates back to May 2014, when tragically one of Sarah's longtime friends was killed near the campus of UC Santa Barbara. Helen and I were on vacation when we heard the news, and as I'm sure everyone can imagine, it was devastating. To make matters worse, Sarah was in the middle of final exams that week and had no other choice but to soldier on. When I finally called Dad to tell him the news, I'm not ashamed to say I broke down the instant I heard his voice on the phone. I'm sure it'll come as no surprise to anyone here. Dad was kind, and he was compassionate, and he was understanding. After he and I had a good long talk, he called back a few hours later and left a message for Sarah, a message I probably listened to 20 times. Speaking directly to Sarah, he told her how much he loved her and how truly, truly sorry he was that this had happened to her friend. He told her he did not know why something like this could happen, but he also told her he was absolutely certain she did not die alone. He assured her that there were people who loved her friend, and they were waiting for her on the other side, waiting to take her into their arms and hold her safe, warm, and close. It was a deeply moving message, and it's one that's given me a great deal of comfort now, as I know there were people waiting for my dad on the other side as well, waiting to take him into their arms and hold him safe, warm, and close. I love you, Dad. It's been an incredible gift and a blessing to be your son and to have had you in our lives for so long. Thank you again, everyone, for allowing me to share this with you. And thank you again for all the kindness, friendship, and love you have shown my dad. Thank you very much.